For someone who is on death's doorstep, I am surprisingly calm. I guess it's because if I knew there was hope to save myself, I would be frantically trying all options to obtain my salvation. In this circumstance, there isn't even hope, just acceptance. Occupational hazard, I suppose. Even if you were an astronaut in space, you have the ability to put on an EVA suit, so you can do the work on the outside in a vacuum. I'm in a more precarious position, yet here I am on Earth. The good news is that this is supposed to be one of the less painful ways to die. I sit there in my tiny space looking back and forth at my two companions, wondering if they are going to kill each other, hoping and praying that they could get along just enough time so that we could complete our research and reach the surface. I'm just saying, this thing should have been decommissioned a long time ago. She just can't help herself. Then again, I kind of expected it to happen sooner or later. Shannon is the kind of person who says what is on her mind, regardless of whether or not the situation is deemed appropriate. Vincent turns around and shoots her the look of death. In his thick French accent, he begins to go off about how easily she could be replaced by another grad student. Shannon and I may be young, but we know what we are doing, and we aren't as replaceable as Vincent often suggests. I try to take it with a grain of salt and write it off as Vincent's way of letting everyone know who is the boss of this vessel. One thing is certain, Vincent Perot is a genius. He is the pilot and head researcher of this deep submergence vessel we lovingly refer to as Skip. Skip was built in the 1970s by the United States Navy, though now owned and operated by a private research group. It is made for a 3-person crew, and it is rated for depths of up to 4,500 meters. Skip is a far cry from the vessel it used to be when it was first built. With the introduction of new technology throughout the years, all kinds of additions and upgrades have been made to the vessel to augment its capabilities. Among the grad students, we always joked that Skip was our Frankenstein vessel, or more accurately, Frankenstein's monster, for the horror snobs. This is probably the reason Shannon felt possessed to get into an argument with Vincent about Skip and its diminished utility. I just assumed that the budget for our research wouldn't allow us to scrap that old tin can for a shiny new one. Vincent has pushed the limits of our vessel many times. He is the most intrepid man I know. I sit in my seat during each dive and listen to the popping and groaning all around our bubble as he takes the vessel even further down into the darkness. I often remind myself that Vincent has done this many more times than I have, and he is still alive, so he must have a firm grasp on its limitations. We still have a lot of new territory to cover. It is estimated that some 80% or greater of the ocean depths have never been discovered or seen by human eyes. This is especially true at its deepest parts. We are researching anything we find: volcanic activity, hydrothermal vents, microorganisms, whatever. All of it is of interest. By far my favorite, though, are the nightmarish deep-sea creatures that so often sneak up on us from out of nowhere. They are also pretty popular with the general public. The pictures have gotten us way more followers on social media than we would have otherwise. I secretly hope that with each nerve-wracking dive, our efforts will be rewarded by finding some scary new things we have never seen before. They make for some good conversation starters at a party. As a wise person once said, though, be careful what you wish for. Everything started out pretty normal last week, so I will start there. We were entering a new section of trench. I was mapping our locations so we could record any important findings. This particular area seemed bottomless. It was one shelf below another, over and over again. Approaching the edge of each rocky shelf was unsettling. We were in absolute pitch black, looking out at the liminal space before us into the unknown. The lights of our vessel would give us some 15 to 20 feet of visibility, but even less at a sudden drop-off. It was like being in your car in a heavy snowstorm, with the flakes appearing to move horizontally in front of the car's path, blocking the immediate view out of the windshield. Once we get to the floor, we find an area that is teeming with life. Any animosity between Shannon and Vincent that may have existed before is dissolved in that moment, because we are excited at what we have to study before us. We spend as much time as Skip's support systems will allow us to observe, film, collect, and gather. As soon as we are satisfied, we drop our weight and ballasts and begin our ascent to the surface. Fast forward to today. I'm sitting there in confusion because I am certain that I mapped out our location from last week. Yet here we are in an area that is rocky and mostly vacant. There's a vague familiarity about the place, but I wonder where all the life had gone. Vincent is getting irritable and impatient, but I don't know what to tell him. I have checked and double-checked. I suppose a mistake could have been made, but if it was, I'm adamant that it is not human error on my part. Vincent gets irritable sometimes. In spite of this, he can be very much the voice of reason, rational and grounded, which is what we often need as a team. Still, he can be condescending at times. I wonder if he was ever the subject of criticism from a superior long ago, much like we are. It's hard to imagine. Since there is no sense dwelling on it, we do some detective work. We start at where we think the perimeter may be from the last time we were here, and try making larger circles one after another. Then we see it. Is that an anglerfish? I wonder out loud. But I don't get an answer. The other two are staring in awe and confusion. The eyes are glossy and white. They don't appear to be looking at anything in particular. As we get closer, our lights reveal something very different. There are 2 arms, 2 hands, a torso, and 2 legs. Its body is translucent, and its bones are visible beneath its long extremities. It is just floating there, completely motionless. I'm convinced after some time without any movement that we were looking at a corpse. Once I get over my initial wave of terror, I begin to wonder whether or not this thing was some kind of evolutionary offshoot, because it looked too much like a human to not have similar parentage. That doesn't really make sense, though. The pressure is too high, and the temperatures are too low for anything like a human to inhabit these depths in the first place. But I was wrong. This thing is very much alive. Right after we witness some arm paddling in our direction, Shannon is spooked and yells out a stream of expletives. I'm having the same reaction as Shannon, except the expletives are going off in my brain. My reaction to the fear is to freeze completely. Vincent tells us to both calm down. Skip has a 2-inch thick dome. There is no reason to think that we are in any danger. As I regain my sanity, I think about our situation for a minute. And as ridiculous as it sounds, I realize that our bearings were correct when we got to this place a second time. The difference may be that the rest of the deep-sea creatures split when it showed up. We take some time to study our new subject, then maneuver away to see if we can find anything else that is similar to this. It is out of our sights now. What was that? A series of loud and violent crashes follows for what seemed like an eternity. At first we all fall into each other. Now we are holding on to something solid for dear life. Since we can't figure out what is going on without seeing anything, I try to move the spotlight around outside to spot the issue. At first, all we see are flashes of white flesh flying past the dome in rapid succession. The light gets in its eyes, and it stops once again, completely motionless. I want to feel relieved, but it was by chance that the thing managed to move by the light in such a way that it shined right into its face. It must not be used to any small amount of light, as the light seems to be the only effective solution to keep it paralyzed. "Don't you dare move that light," Vincent commands. Well, yeah, I'm not insane. Vincent is testing the control panel, and Shannon is trying to reach out to the support ship to give them an update. I'm obviously occupied. It feels like I'm playing a video game with the highest stakes imaginable. I've never gripped anything so tightly in my life. The best solution here is pretty simple. We drop all weights to begin floating to the surface. However, all of that stuff is not functioning, because of course it isn't. It even manages to cut our umbilical cord from the support ship. We need to get away from the creature. Skip's propulsion system is pretty pathetic, and not much help with a quick getaway. Vincent decides to use the vessel's mechanical arms to grab the landscape along the bottom and scoot to safety. There are two issues, though. Once we approach a cliff or rocky ledge that needs to be scaled to the top, we can't adjust our buoyancy, so we may not be able to climb. If the light moves away from the creature while we are leaving, it might come after us again in the darkness. But what choice do we have? Vincent gives us our respective tasks, and we begin to scoot away, finding the path of least resistance to get as high up as possible. It is following us now. Once it trails behind enough to be left in obscurity, I can tell that it is incredibly fast. It keeps its distance from the spotlight, yet it is impossible to evade. My hands are white-knuckle on the controls to keep things illuminated, so we aren't attacked again. We are moving slow, but we manage to find some ramps to climb. If we get high enough, there may be enough ambient light to stave off the creature. The support ship has confirmed that they are tracking us, and are working with a rescue now. It took us several hours to dive where we are now, so who knows how long we may be waiting for a rescue. We crawl for what seems like forever, but have managed to climb quite a ways. This vessel has a lot of safety protocols to ensure that the occupants have options in case of emergency, and I'm beginning to trust those protocols. I'm with my group of friends, and we are racing down the docks to get to the beach. You would think that my traumatic experience would have turned me off to the water, but I won't be swimming today. I will just be sitting on the beach under the sun and relaxing. I get settled in and start reading a book. The solid earth and sand feels so good beneath me. Things are mostly quiet until I hear a commotion down the beach. It is a bunch of kids gathered around something. I lift my sunglasses and squint to get a better look. They are poking something with a stick that has washed ashore. Dang kids. Nobody else seems to be bothered enough to stop the cruelty. Time to be the responsible adult. I get up to go over there. Hey, leave that thing alone. Once I am close enough, I look down in horror to see what they are poking at. A slender creature that looks like a 7-foot-tall man has washed up and is lying dead in the sand. It has translucent white skin. While it lies flat, it appears almost completely two-dimensional, like a dead jellyfish. I have a vague recollection of this situation. Where have I seen this before? The kids laugh as they continue to poke. How are they not scared? The other parents and adults are completely oblivious or apathetic to what's going on. Hey! Knock it off! The poking and laughter continue. As I turn around, I find myself back in the bubble of our vessel, and I have a massive headache. I look over at Shannon. She's trying to find a way to get out. What is she doing, I wonder? Even if she found a way out, she would be crushed and frozen to death. I look over at Vincent. I had hoped that our fearless leader would be there to motivate us to hang on a little longer until help arrives. He does not. He's sitting in a daze and is not responsive to my attempts to get his attention. We are running out of oxygen. I realize that what I experienced is an invention of my subconscious. I'd been hallucinating. After a short while, I hear a couple of loud thuds on the outside of our vessel. I can't tell if it is metallic or organic. The last thing I remember is wondering whether rescue has arrived, or if the creature has reached us. My mind is sinking now into darkness, but I don't fight it anymore. I just let it happen.